some parts of the state did manage to fare better than others. My colleague TJ Holmes is in Tampa, where they were preparing for a direct hit, but it looks like they were spared the worst of the storm. TJ, my man, what's happening there now?
They were really worried here. There was a high level of anxiety because Tampa, the whole Tampa Bay area, is so prone to flooding already. They get a strong rainstorm here during the year, and this place will flood pretty good. So the threat was about that storm surge. You got so many people living here right on the water. And then the thing took a turn. Irma took a turn over the weekend and made a beeline. Looked like it was coming directly for Tampa, but last night, overnight, it took a little bit of a shift to the east, spared them the direct hit, and it came on as a Category 1. They're using words like fortunate and blessed today and saying that they absolutely dodged a bullet. They're doing assessments today. A lot of people are without power, 300,000 customers in the area, about 40% of the customers in the area, but they think they'll get that back up. There is debris out and some down power lines, but I'm going to let, like you said, these folks here know that they really dodged a bullet. They were preparing for the worst, and this was one of the best case scenarios they could have come up with.
So, TJ, we know when Irma made landfall first, it was at the Keys. It was a Category 4. It was 130 miles per hour, some of those max winds. By the time it got to Tampa, you mentioned it had weakened significantly, but how bad were the winds and how bad was the rainfall?
Now, they got those hurricane force winds, and we were out in some of that last night. Some of those wind gusts we're talking about get up to 80, 90 miles an hour. Now, that stuff was, don't make no mistake now, that stuff was there. They got heavy driving rain in the overnight hours. But we woke up today expecting really for the worst. And what it turns out is that, in fact, some people really did go to bed last night not knowing what was going to happen overnight or what they see when they woke up in the morning. But in fact, yes, Irma took a little bit of a shift to the east, and we saw that happen late last night, again, before a lot of people probably watched TV, and this happened after they went to bed, so they missed it, but it took a little bit of a shift, so the winds weren't as strong as expected, and it wasn't that direct hit. But again, 89-mile wind gusts will still give you some damage, and they do have moderate damage is what they're calling it here today, but it's still nothing like, I mean, imagine if we had a sustained wind gust of 60, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour here, and it was a direct hit. And you throw in the fact that we're sitting here on the water, the fact that you got 3 million people living in this area, then you're talking about a different type of morning and a type of catastrophe that they were really hoping to avoid, and they did.
TJ, I'm looking behind you, and that water seems to sit just below some of those roadways and bridges. You can only imagine how bad it could have been. It had been even a little bit stronger.
Yes, and look, the folks here, look, we love Tampa. We love the area, this beautiful coastline, 700 miles, Clearwater Beach. Don't we all love Clearwater Beach? You've seen that sand, put your toes in that stuff. It's why people want to live here, right? But people have been coming here in droves over the past several years, and this has seen population growth. People want to be here. Well, this is the threat. When you live here, you are living right on the water. And so we're sitting here. This is the Hillsborough River that dumps out into Tampa Bay there in the distance where those bridges are. So this is the water level normally. What they thought was going to happen was a 5 to 8 foot storm surge. If this water rises some 5 to 8 feet, I am not able to stand here. This is going to wipe us and me and my whole crew out where we're standing here. So we saw this dump out yesterday. You know, that negative surge they talk about where the water gets drawn out into the Gulf and then comes back in the rush when a hurricane takes place. So this dumped out yesterday, like you wouldn't believe. It essentially drained almost like your bathtub would. But it rushed back in, but not with the type of surge they expected. So, in fact, the surge is not a threat anymore. They do have a lot of rivers here around Tampa that they think could see some flooding with all the rain, but nothing like it could have been.
That is very, very fortunate indeed. But, TJ, we have to mention much of the state did not fare so well. We're looking now at some pictures from across different parts of Florida there, which we still don't even have a full assessment of how bad the destruction actually is there. As you mentioned, folks in Tampa, very, very, very lucky indeed. But still, there's debris there, there's wind damage, there are power outages. Are folks there at all concerned that because of how bad it is in other parts of the state, that they won't get the help that they need right away? They might get pushed further down the priority track.
You know, that's great that you bring that up because I just listened to a press conference from Hillsborough County officials here. And check out what they said now. They said, look, we think we're going to get the power up pretty soon. We have a lot of debris out in the streets. They said actually a dozen homes were destroyed. They used the word destroyed when trees fell on them. No injuries, no fatalities, but trees fell over. So right, we say it wasn't so bad. Don't tell it to the 12 people who lost their homes, right? So there is some damage here, but nothing like some of the disasters maybe we see in other areas. But get this, they said we are working to actually get things back up and running and moving on and cleared up so that we can take some of our resources and move them over to some of our other counties and other places around Florida that need help more. So they're already thinking about helping their fellow man and their fellow Floridian out that got it worse than they did. So they're not actually asking for anything, any resources to come in. They're dying to get themselves back up and running so they can send their resources out to people who have been impacted further.
That is incredible stuff, incredible spirit, and man, just an incredibly lucky community there, TJ Holmes. I can't, I'm sure you've talked to people there who are just feeling so incredibly fortunate today. Has anyone you talked to worried about future storms, worried that next time they might not be so lucky?
Well, here's the thing about that. They haven't had a Category 3, a really strong storm, give them a direct hit since 1921, right? So it's almost as if, we've been good for 100 years. Maybe we'll be good for 100 more. This was supposed to be the one finally that caught up with them, right? Our luck has run out. And still, at the last minute, they still were able to avoid a direct hit from a major storm. So their record is still intact, right? Their streak is still intact. They've gone since 1921 without a major storm. The idea of it is always there, and you always think about it because, like you say, I'm standing right here on the water. Downtown Tampa is right here, all kinds of development. Yeah, there are cranes in the distance right here over my shoulder. They have a major $3 billion construction project that's going to be happening over the next 10 years. They're developing, they're growing. That's all great. But the threat is always that any of this can be taken out and wiped out by a major storm. But they haven't had one since 1921. Keep the fingers crossed, and those crossed fingers worked last night because Irma took a last-second turn and spared them once again. So are they worried? Nah. I would say probably not. At this, you have to be worried about it, but it just has been so long, and they dodged it so long, and they dodged it again last night when everybody thought this was the one that's finally going to catch up to Tampa. It did not happen.
But for the grace of God, TJ Holmes, everyone there in Tampa Bay, very, very fortunate to wake up this morning to minimal damage there. TJ, thanks for being there. Thanks for talking to us today.
Good to see you as always.
And for the latest on Hurricane Irma, which has now been downgraded to a tropical storm and continues to track up the east coast of the United States, head over to the ABC News app. Download it today. You'll get the latest updates right there as we have them. For now, I'm Amna Nawaz, and I'll see you back here soon.